I don't care if he is the nicest guy, if he says all the right things, if he opens your door, if he's a gentleman, I don't care. The main thing he wants to do when he first meets you, before he gets to know how great of a woman you are, how intelligent you are, all that, the first thing is he wants to sleep with you. Hello, my lovely ladies. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. My name is Isabel, and in this video, we're going to be speaking about why he doesn't commit and what you should be doing instead. Now, let's get straight into this video because there is so much to cover. So this topic came to me because one of my friends came to me and we were talking about her relationship and what was happening, well, what wasn't happening, and how in her situationship she was, dealing with this guy for over a year, and just kind of was in this like limbo stage where it's like he doesn't really want a relationship, but is like doing everything like they're in a relationship. And so basically what we would call a situationship, that's basically what she was dealing with. And she was like asking me, like, what is it that she can do to kind of make this guy commit to her and, kind of lock things down. And I just wanted to make this video because I feel like this is a topic that has come up so much. I mean, with private clients of mine, even like some goddess check-ins that we do when I go live with you ladies, and this kind of topic comes up a lot. And I just wanted to kind of put a video out speaking specifically about it, and really just like help as much as I can. So in this kind of situation, if you find yourself, dealing with a guy, whether it be a situationship or a relationship that you're not very sure of or that you're not like confident of, because I know that sometimes happens as well. Like I've been, in my past, I've been in relationships that were like, they were relationships, but they weren't real relationships. They were just called relationships, but in reality, I think they were more situationships, if I'm being honest with myself. I always suggest for women who are in these kind of situations to actually speak to the person, like speak to the guy that you're dating. And I know that sounds very easy, but it's not very easy. I mean, I have to be honest with me, in certain relationships that I was in, I didn't always want to like have the tough conversations because I just didn't want things to like blow up, or I didn't know how they were going to turn out. So I would hold a lot of it in and not just come out and say things. And I think that is the worst thing that you can do, especially if you want a certain type of relationship and you're not in it with this person. It's important that you have that conversation with them just so everybody knows what everybody is feeling. And if things have to come to an end because of that, then you just have to accept that rather than, spending so much more time with this person and wasting your own time. So the first thing that you should be doing if you are in this situation is having that open conversation where you're really telling him, this is how I feel, this is what I want out of this relationship. Is that something that you want? And be open to hearing what he has to say and knowing that it just might not be. And a lot of the time, women get upset with this because they're like, well, I'm sleeping with him, I'm cooking with him. I mean, even some women are living with the guy, have a kid with him, and he still won't like fully commit to them. And I feel like when it's that deep, when it's that type of situation, then I think that it's important for you to realize that at that point you are wasting your own time, because in relationships, there are gradual stages in each relationship. It's just like when you go to school, as a child, you start in preschool, then you go to kindergarten, and then you go to first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, you go to middle school, you go to high school, and if you want to, you go to college. That is the same thing in relationships. When you first meet a person, that's just like you're in preschool, right? You're getting to know them, you're dating, there's a courting situation, then you get into the relationship, and then you guys are, calling each other girlfriend and boyfriend or whatever like that. When you get in the relationship, a lot of people stop there and they think, well, that's it, that's the graduation. But really, that's just elementary, like that is just like the basics right there. You're not yet really experiencing the relationship in its entirety. Really, this elementary stage is really just getting to know the basics and getting to know more about the person and building that foundation with each other so you can get to the next stage, which is engagement. And in engagement, you are not supposed to stay there forever. And a lot of people get caught up in that situation as well, because men kind of give, a hush up ring where they're like, she wants to be married so bad. She keeps on asking me, let me just give her a ring and shut her up. And they don't actually intend to marry you. They don't actually intend to take it further than the ring, but you will be fed the idea of, this is going to be something more. We're going to get married. But like I say all the time, it's not just a ring. Like, you actually need to go and get a marriage license if you actually are going to get married. And if the guy is truly serious, you guys need to be planning like, okay, we're going to go get a marriage license, because I truly don't believe in like long engagements. I think they're a waste of time. I think, like, once you say yes and maybe like, okay, let's start planning the wedding. And if your wedding is going to happen a year later, 6 months later, a couple months later, or the next day, that's what you should be knowing from that point of your relationship. So I think it's very, suspicious if a person is like, oh, we're engaged. How long have you been engaged? Oh, we've been engaged for like 5 years. Like, oh, okay, so you're still at stage one. You haven't really committed to each other to get married. And then once you get married, we're in college and we graduated, or, what are we going to do with our lives? Because you build your life with one another once you're married for real, and then having children and all that other stuff. So I said all of that to say that relationships have stages, and you have to realize what stage of the relationship that you are in. If you are in a situationship, that means that you are between dating and relationship. You are not quite just dating, because you're doing more than that, and you're not quite in a relationship. You're in between. You're in that in between state. That's a state that if you truly like a person, you definitely don't want to be. If you find yourself in a situation state and you do not want to be there, it's probably clear he does not want to continue on in this relationship any further than where you're at right there. And I think it's important for women to be real with themselves and understand where you're at in your relationship, and be honest with yourself and say, it's probably not going to go further than that. And that's where a lot of women mess themselves up, because they want it to go further than that. They see themselves, married to this person, even though there is no clear indication that he wants that with you. But you can build up the fairy tale, and I think it's important for a lot of women to understand that men are very clear on what women want. Men know you want marriage. Men know you want commitment. Men know maybe 7 out of 10 times you're going to want children. You're going to want marriage. You're going to want commitment. So he will sell you on that. He will tell you all of the nice words, but he will never truly give it to you, because he has no intention on giving to you. He only intends on taking what he wants from you, which is usually a woman who is acting like they're married and doing all the things a wife would do without having to be a wife. And a lot of women get caught up in this and they get mad at the man, rightfully so. I mean, I'm definitely not on the man's side on that. I think, that's a horrible thing. You need to be honest. But I think a lot of the time you have to take responsibility for yourself and realize, like, this has been clear, and it's usually clear. And I think women need to, like I say all the time, like, stop playing about you. Be clear about what you want. And if this person does not have the capacity to give you what you want, whether he is not emotionally available, whether he, is not yet being in his Prince Charming phase where he's cheating and sleeping and partying and just not really making you a priority, you have to be honest with yourself about that. You have to be clear that I like this person and I really want to be with them, but they don't want it with me. And that is clear, because if men want to be with you and they love you and they want to marry you and they see a future with you, they will let you know and they will put the actions behind it. There are men who will live with you and still have no intention on being with you long term. They will have children with you and still have no intention on being with you long term. They will do everything in the book to make it seem like, you're the one that I'm going to be with long term, and it just not be the case. And I want you ladies to tap into your intuition, because your intuition always knows. There was never a relationship that I was in my past that I didn't know that it was going to end. I clearly knew, and I used those relationships for whatever benefit I needed them in, because I knew they weren't going to be forever relationships, until I met my husband. And then I was like, oh, that's it. That's the guy. And I think the more you listen to your intuition, the more you are clear and you're accepting and you're like, you know what? This isn't my person. This isn't going to work out. The more you're going to be able to identify it more as it comes up, and you stop wasting your time. And then you actually open yourself up to the person who you are supposed to be with, and you can recognize them earlier on. And it's important for us women to really tap into our intuition, because these men will waste your time and lie to you. And I think that is something that you need to understand, that men have one clear mission. I say it all the time. Every man who is dating you wants to sleep with you. That is his number one mission when he is dating you. I don't care if he is the nicest guy, if he says all the right things, if he opens your door, if he's a gentleman, I don't care. The main thing he wants to do when he first meets you, before he gets to know how great of a woman you are, how intelligent you are, all that, the first thing is he wants to sleep with you. He will say and do all of the things he needs to do to accomplish that goal. That is what is hardwired in these men, is to do whatever it takes to get to that goal. So if he knows that most women want marriage, want children, want, this lifestyle, wants, a provider, all this stuff, he will present himself as that is exactly who he is, because he knows if he says the right things, you are going to believe him, and you will drink that Kool-Aid, and you will give him what he wants. And he doesn't have to give you anything for that. He doesn't have to actually show up and give you the marriage and give you the kids and give you the house and he doesn't have to do any of that, because he just sold you on the idea of it with him. And women get in love with the potential of a man instead of seeing him for who he truly is. And so I think it's important that you understand, if men are coming at you in that kind of manner, where they're coming at you, they already want something from you, they already know what to say to get that to you, do not make it easier for him. Do not make it easier for him. Do not let him know that marriage and children is something that you want. Like I said, marriage and children is the default. Most species want this connection. Most humans want marriage. Most humans want children. That is just an automatic. It's the people who do not want those things that you need to know about, right? Like, so if a person says, oh, I want marriage and children, it's like, okay, like, that's fine. A lot of people do. If a person is telling you, I don't want those things, then you're like, oh, okay, thank you for letting me know. That's where I think people kind of mix up a lot. It's kind of like the idea of, like, if you go grocery shopping and you see, a tomato, 9 times out of 10 going to assume, because we've been programmed to know that this tomato is probably GMO, and you're probably going to look for the sign organic to know this is the different thing, right? This is the thing that's not GMO. So it's the same idea that if you're looking at a person, most of the time they are going to want marriage. They're going to want children. It's the person who says, I don't want that, is the one that you're like, oh, okay, thank you for letting me know. So I think it's important that we just, make that clear, that just because a guy says, I want marriage, I want children, doesn't mean like, oh, we're an automatic match. Like, it doesn't mean that even that you want that with him. And I think a lot of women treat men like they are the prize, like they're the person who, they're the one who they're winning. And it's like every guy that wants marriage and child does not mean that I want marriage and children with him. Like, like just because, like, yeah, I want to get married, I want to have children. Okay, good for you. That doesn't mean I want that with you. I see so many women do that even with religion. They're like, oh, well, he's Christian, so good start. And it's like, well, you're in a Christian based country, regardless if we admit it or not. Like most people in America are Christian. So it's like, okay, all right, fine. Doesn't cool, good for you. Like that's a personal thing, and that's not going to make me, pick you because you're Christian. And I think a lot of men use religion, they'll use the marriage, they'll use the children, they'll use these provider, they'll call themselves high value, they'll do all these things that they know are trigger words for women to pique their interest, and they'll say all of the right things and never have to produce. So I think a lot of the time women get into these situationships with these men who are just doing that to them, and they don't realize it, and they think, well, he said that, we're great together, or he calls me wifey. Like there's so many women who walk around, I swear, and they've been in relationships with this guy and they're like, this guy's my husband. And I'm like, he's not your husband. You are not his wife. Do not give yourself away and give him this grand title that he did not earn and that he does not deserve. He did not get down on his knees, ask you to marry him, go down to the county clerk, get a marriage license, and then have a ceremony in front of whoever is performing the wedding and, witnesses. He did not do any of those things, so he does not get the title of those things. That's like working at a company and being like, oh, well, I'm the CEO here because I work here. Like, no, you don't. You haven't climbed the ladder to get there. Like, you haven't gotten a promotion. You're not there yet. Why are you claiming to have this title? And that is something that, I think it's important for all the women who are, in relationships and feel stuck, that are you doing these things? Are you giving him more than he is allowed, right? I remember me and my husband was talking to one of his clients, and I was being introduced to one of their children, and they were an older couple and they had older kids. And his son, I, met him, and I was like, oh, hi. And he was like, oh, this is my fiance, such and such. And I was like, oh, hi. Nice to meet you. And then we changed the topic, and then his mom came and he was like, oh, did you meet my son and his girlfriend? And then he looked at her and he was like, that's my fiance. And she was like, oh, I didn't know, because it's not really his fiance. And it's just like a lot of the times, like men will say these things to make the woman feel better, especially if they're meeting somebody else's wife. They'll be like, oh, okay, let me like say this thing just so, she doesn't feel embarrassed. Because honestly, if you are over a certain age and you're just somebody's girlfriend, it doesn't sound too good, because the whole thing of girlfriend, boyfriend, you're not adults. It's girl. It's not woman friend. It's not man friend. It's girlfriend, boyfriend, because it is adolescence. It's a young energy. The term boy and girl, that shows you that it's very, elementary. It's young. It's children. It's childlike. It's not adult. And so if a man, meets a wife or anything like that, and he wants his woman to feel good about herself, he's going to say, oh yeah, like, this is my fiance, right? Or this is my wife, and she has no ring. They're not really married. He's not wearing a ring. And I think that's important for you ladies to know, like, if you're in that situation, like, you need to call it out right there. Like, hey, I'm not married. We're not married. We're not together in that kind of way. And if you want those kind of things, then you need to propose, and we need to, get the marriage started. And I think that, it's important for each of us to really understand how these men function and how they're really trying to package themselves like this high value guy who has all the things and, can give you the world and never have to, right? He can play it up because he can just tell you whatever he wants. And if he gives you this, oh, that's my wife, that's my wifey, and all this stuff, but he never marries you, but he never, actually does the thing that he's claiming that he did, and you let him get away with it, then you are playing yourself and you are wasting your own time. So if you are in that situation, girl, I 100% feel for you, and I want you to be strong in who you are and what you want, and have that tough conversation and let him know this is where I'm at with things. Like, are we something? Because if we're not, if we don't want this, then I need to move on, and whatever that looks like. And if you're dealing with someone in a situation type of thing, not that you guys are together and he won't marry you, but more in a situation type of situation, you need to continue to have your options open. Do not let this man have you completely when he is not completely with you. I will tell you this because I've been in a situationship before. It was a relationship, but again, it felt like a situationship. Like, we were like in a relationship, but I felt like, this is not how I would be in a relationship. I didn't feel like connected to them enough for that. And what I knew in that situation, it was like, this is just a means to an end. This is just to get what I want, or for him to get what he wants, whatever it is, but this is not forever. And I want you ladies to know, if it was forever, if this guy was truly serious with you, he would not be having you in a situationship. Never, ever, ever. He will go out of his way to lock it down with you. There are so many times when I was single and I was dating, I would go on a date with a guy, and from day one, he was like, can we be together? I want you to be my girlfriend. I want to be with you. Day one. And I want you to know that's how quick these guys know if they want to be with you or not. So if he is sitting here wasting your time, if he is going back and forth with it, you need to be the one that's going to stick up for yourself and say, this isn't what I want. And yeah, I don't feel like you want me like that. And that's fine, but that means I have to move on. And I think it's important that, we stand on business and we don't play about us, like, don't play about you. There are so many times I just kind of want to bring up one more example, is like this couple of years ago, friends and stuff were out partying and stuff like that, and went to like this guy's house that they met like after he like had a place on the Hollywood Hills, and was just like hanging out, and one of his friends was there with the girl he was dating, and his friend and the girl were like hanging out first, and then when my friends came, I actually wasn't there. This is all a story that was told back to me, and then something weird happened after, but I'll tell you the story and then I'll tell you the weird thing that happened. And the guy saw my friend, and he was like, oh my God, like, she's so beautiful, like, wow. And you know he would stop talking to the girl he was dating and went to my friend, who was only there being a wing woman to our other friend who was actually dating the other guy, and he was like, like, I'm interested in you. And he completely just like dismissed the other girl and had her sitting there looking ridiculous. And then at the time, my friend, she was a smoker, and he was like, oh, like, I want to get you some weed. I think she has it. And so he made the girl he was talking to get her weed so my friend can smoke it, because he wanted to go out of his way to make sure my friend was having a good time. And he was like, I'm even going to use the girl that I'm dating so I can make this other girl feel comfortable. And he cooked for her. He did so much. Like, she was actually really sad for the other girl, because she was like, oh my God, he is clearly like disrespecting you and like really hitting on me like really hard. And her and the other girl went to the bathroom, and she was like, oh, like, what's up with you and this guy, and stuff like that. And she was like, I really like him. We've been dating. We've been talking for a really long time, and I just kind of feel like funny tonight. Like, I feel like he's just acting really weird. And she was like, well, girl, if you like him, like, that's good. Like, she's just kind of like, oh my God, like, this is so weird. fast forward the next day, and my friend is over at my house. She's telling me the story and everything like that. And he had gave her his login for his Netflix account. And so she was over at my house and she was like, oh, I have the login for his Netflix account. Like, let's watch some Netflix. And I was like, okay, perfect. Like, cool. And then like we're on social media, and at that time I had Instagram, and I'm like on my Instagram and I look at like who just started following me. And tell me why it was him. Like, he found me on social media and started following me and like was messaging me like, oh, like we should hang out, blah, blah, blah. And I have no idea who this guy is. Like, I wasn't even there. There was no way. I mean, unless from him following my friend, then he saw like, oh, they're connected. Like, let me follow her. I like her too. And like, just like, oh, we should all hang out kind of thing. And I'm just like, dude, like, honestly, these guys are playing. I tell you ladies this all the time. I did not believe jack squat for my husband until we said I do. And then I was like, oh, well, he's a man of his word. You know, like I didn't have like my guards up. Like, I would, let him show me all the things that he needed to show me. And I, wasn't pessimistic about it or anything like that. But I'm a realist at heart. And I'm going to look at a person and say, well, we'll see. I don't just automatically believe everything someone tells me. I have to see it for myself. And I honestly, finally was like, okay, my husband is for real. Once we said I do, and I was like, we're really married. He did actually do what he said he was going to do. Like, this is a good man. Like, this man is about what he says. And I just want that to be like in you ladies' head. Have your own back until he shows you otherwise. These guys are playing. I don't care if you live with him. I don't care if you have a baby with him. I don't care. I mean, some of these guys, even if you marry him, he is playing. Like, you need to know when someone is playing with you. And we all know when they are playing. We are just not being honest with ourselves. Tap into your womanly intuition and read the room. Read that person. Actually see you're playing. You're not serious. And don't give him an excuse. I don't care if you like him. I don't care if, you have a baby with him. I don't care about none of that, because in the reality of it is you need to protect yourself. If this guy is playing and you know he's playing, then you cannot blame him for wasting your time. I always say this to my clients when they're telling me about a guy that they really like. I'm like, don't talk to me like you're on his side. And I think that is important. And I want to leave that with you ladies before we end this video, is for you not to automatically be on his side. When you talk to him with your friends, with your family, don't go into it being on his side. Look at him critically. It doesn't matter if he's, a great guy and you really like him. You don't need to be on his side. You just need to look at him of who he is. And what I mean about him being on his side, if there are clear things that he is doing that seem suspicious, don't justify it for him. Don't, give an excuse to it for him. Call it what it is. Don't be on his side. Don't just like, oh, let me give him the benefit of the doubt. No. Call it out for what it is. We are not on his side. We are not rooting for him to win your love. It is what it is. Either he does it or he doesn't. You're not on his side. May the best man win. That is the only way you are actually going to have clear discernment, is if you look at each guy that you're dating and say, may the best man win. Because we are not going to sacrifice ourselves so this man can win you, right? It's like, no, you need to actually put in the work. And if you are who you say you are, then you'll be fine. But I'm not going to automatically be on your side, defend your position or anything like that, and actually look at you with clear discernment and saying, well, this is what he did and this is what he's about, and he lied about this and he lied about that, and he's probably a liar, and it is what it is. Plain and simple. There's no excuse. There's no, well, how he grew up, he could have been triggered, but I'm not on your side, especially against me. And I think that's a lot of women's position. They will be on the man's side so much, even against their own selves. If you are justifying his behavior, you are going against yourself. And so love yourself more than that, more than the possibility of this man being anything for you, and just accept where he's at, what he's about, and move forward, move on. Now, if any of you ladies want a one-on-one with me, say you're in this kind of situation and you just really need help and clarity, you can always reach out to me. My information is in the description for that. And also my online course for the Feminine Way to Date Online is in the description. Please subscribe to the channel, like the channel, and comment down below if you have any more thoughts or anything you want to say, comment it down below. And I will see you ladies in the next video. Bye.